In this video, let me talk about booleans. Booleans are simply truth variables, anything that holds the value of true or false. A boolean is anything that holds a value of true or false. For example, being a boy or not being a boy, that's being a girl. Going to school or not, feeling sleepy or not, and so on. Any statement that may hold the value of being true or being false is a boolean. Booleans like numbers and strings also have operators on them, and these are and, or, and not. Using such operators on booleans gives birth to what we call logic, and we are going to see how that works. Now let's create some booleans. I can say is male is equal to true, and what this means is uh, the variable is male holds a value is true, and it can also hold a value is false. That's if someone is not male. Now how can we express that? We express that by saying not is male. So if we print this, so we can say print not is male. So if we print not is male, just for demonstration, I'm going to run this file by saying python booleans.py, and this is going to return false. So I can also print another variable. So let's say is adult, and let's say is not an adult. So how do we express this in terms of code? So we can say print not is adult. And when we print this, it should also return, actually for this case, let's say is adult is equal to false. So when we save this, we going to run our file, and you see that in this case it returns true. So we can use not to show that we are opposing a statement that is true or opposing a statement that is false. We can also have other operators such as the or operator. For example, we can say, let me remove these print statements. For example, we can try to compare and using and or. Now we have what we call truth tables, and those truth tables work for all the operators we have. Now we've worked on the first case where we have booleans true and false, and when we oppose a true, let's say when we say not true, this is going to give us false, and when we say not false, this is going to give us true. However, when we use the or operator, when you have statement being true or false, as long as it's true on one side, you can say it's true for both. Same thing when you have being false on one side or being true on one side, this gives us being true for both. And when you have both being false, let's say both being false, we are going to have, let me remove this terminal, we're going to have both statements being false. And when you have true, both statements being true, we can have both being true. So for the OR operator, when you have one statement being true, that means we are having the whole statement being true. However, when you have all statements being false, when you are using the OR operator on them, we see that we have a false value for all of them. So let's try to see this in action. So I'm going to use print and try to compare our two statements. We have is male and is adult. So if I say is adult or is smell. So if I save this, I'm going to run this by saying, so I'm going to open my terminal and clear it. So if I run booleans.py, it's going to return true because one of these statements is true, and that is male. So let's look at the AND operator. I'm going to close this, and for the AND operator, we only have statements being true when compared, and both statements can be true only and only if we are having both statements being true. Let's see how that works. So when you're using the AND operator, we can say that when you have true and true, then we can have true. When you have true and false, this shows us that we have false. When you have true, when you have false and true, this gives us false. And when we have false and false, this will give us false. So when we do this, let's try to see this in action. Now, when you try on the variables we are having currently, it's going to give us false. This is because with our AND operator, we need to have both statements being equal to true if we want to achieve a true result. So let's try to print is male and is adult. So if I save that and run our file, I'm going to run python booleans.py. So it's going to return false, and this is because we have one statement being false. Now let's try negating the false variable. So when you go and look at that is adult variable is false. Now when you come and instead of printing this, so I'm going to comment this. Let me comment this with control and question mark. I'm going to come down here. So I'm going to print is male and not is adult. So this is a false statement. So negating that, when you run booleans.py, we see that it's returning true. And this is because we've negated the false statement.